Hey everyone, it's Tom McFarlane, and I want to welcome you to the second lesson in the Tuts Plus course on understanding WordPress post meta boxes. In this particular lesson, we're going to work on a couple of things. First, we're going to talk about web servers, database servers, and PHP. We're going to install WordPress, and we're going to set up our IDE so that we'll be ready for the remainder of this entire course. So, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the web server, the database server, and PHP. These three components are necessary in order for WordPress to run. First, the web server is responsible for handling requests that come in from a web browser and then responding with the data from the web server. A database server is responsible for hosting a database where all of the databases and their associated tables are kept. And PHP is, of course, the programming language that runs on top of the web server, interfaces with the database server, and allows us to write programs that run on the server side that gives users dynamic applications such as WordPress. Now, I know many of us who are watching this course use a variety of different systems. Some are on Windows, some are on Linux, and some are on Mac. So I'm going to talk about three different software packages in order to cover the bases so that all of us have something on which to work. First, I want to talk about WAMP. WAMP is a software package that includes Apache, PHP, MySQL, and is intended to run on Windows. This is a single installation server that will allow you to set up a web server and WordPress on your computer so that you can have a local development environment running. If you need help, all of the training documents and the help and the support are available on the website. Next, I want to talk about XAMPP, sometimes called XAMPP, sometimes called XAMPP. Anyway, this is a cross-platform application, meaning that it runs on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS X. It also includes Apache, MySQL, and PHP. The third option, specifically for Macs, is MAMP and MAMP Pro. MAMP is a free version, and MAMP Pro is paid. For many people, honestly, MAMP is probably the right choice, but if you're looking for a little more power, such as the ability to set up email, handle virtual host, work with dynamic DNS, things like that, then MAMP Pro may be the way to go. Now, I'm going to be using MAMP Pro throughout this lesson. In setting it up, there's nothing that I'm going to do that can't be done with the other applications that we've looked at, so you won't be left behind. Primarily, we're going to set up a working directory for WordPress, and then we're going to look at setting up an IDE out of which to run our project. Other than that, we're not going to be doing anything special. So with that said, go ahead and pick your favorite package, download it, install it, and then we'll get into configuring it. Once you've installed your web server, you should be presented with some type of control panel. Now, they all look different. Some allow you to control all aspects of the application or the configuration from within the dashboard. Others will require you to edit some configuration files. Regardless, everything that is set here and that you're going to see is able to be tweaked within the context of your environment. So, looking at the server, you'll notice that for my Apache port, I've set it to 80. For SSL, I've set it to 443. And for MySQL, I've set it to 3306. For many installations, this is the default that you will see. Some may have other ports, but if you change them to this and save it, you'll be good to go. Secondly, I'm opting to run Apache and MySQL as screencasting/screencasting. That is the username that I am currently logged into on my computer. Though there is a security message saying that if you're connected to the internet, you should run it as www/mysql. Right now, for the purposes of this lesson, and if you're working out of your house, this would be fine. Next, I've opted to start and stop both Apache and MySQL when starting and quitting MAMP Pro. Under the Apache tab or in your configuration, the Apache configuration file, you can leave everything checked as is. For MySQL, you want to make sure that everything here is left as is. Next, regarding PHP, you may have several versions available. That includes 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. And I always stick with the minimum number right now because at the time of this lesson, that is the minimum number that WordPress supports. And we want to be able to take advantage of all of the features that WordPress offers. And so that's the version that we're using. I've opted to keep the extensions for the cache off. And then finally, I am choosing to write all errors and warnings to both the display and the log. This means that whenever there's a problem with the code that we've written, we'll see it printed out to the web browser and it will also be kept in a log. We're not going to worry about dynamic DNS and we're not going to worry about postfix as it's outside the scope of this lesson. Next, on the host tab, you'll notice that there is a local host, and this is how you access the website in a web browser, as you'll see momentarily. Next, you'll notice that I don't have a disk location selected for my localhost hostname. So I'm going to choose Documents, www, and that's where I'm going to be hosting all of my HT documents out of. Most installations for the packages we've talked about use a folder called htdocs or htdocs. If that's where you want to install WordPress and your project files, that's perfectly fine. As long as you know where everything is, that's really all that matters. I'll make sure to apply this change, and I will be prompted to acknowledge that the settings will take effect at the next start of the servers. However, I'm not going to do that just yet. After that, I'm going to click on the Advanced tab, and I want to make sure that out of all of the options for a directory, I have Includes checked and Follow Symlinks checked. Finally, for Allow Override, Order, and Allow, I want to allow override from all, order, allow, and deny, and allow from all. Most of these settings are already set exactly as is, so you don't have to do anything to change it. SSL we don't need to worry about, and we don't need to worry about any other settings. At this point, we are ready to save our work if your web server calls for it, and then we can start our environment. Permitting everything goes well. If you're in MAMP, you'll have two lights next to your Apache and MySQL lines, and it'll give you the option to stop. In other control panels, it may give you a green light, or it may say that the server is running, whatever the case may be. You can minimize the software package, and you can launch your web browser and attempt to navigate to localhost. Now, depending on your web server, you'll see a new welcome screen. This may be for MAMP, this may be for XAMPP, this may be for WAMP, and it may be just a directory listing, and if the directory listing is empty, then you won't see anything. So at this point, we've successfully discussed various web server packages, we've installed one on our local machine, and we have got it running where we are able to see a welcome screen. In the next lesson, we'll get started with installing WordPress and configuring our IDE. So we're halfway to getting our development environment set up, and I can't wait to see you in the next lesson where we finally get our environment configured for development.